So we're gonna, I guess, kind of focus on these 22 images from New York State. I guess the first thing I want to just, I guess, include to the viewers here is my little quote that I've developed that says, "Photography captures just a moment of time, preserving it long into the future, with the sole purpose of reminding us of the past." So I came up with this quote one day. It just kind of made me think about what photography means to me and what I want it to mean to people that look at my work. And I think with any photograph we look at, it's just literally a moment of time, right? It's capturing a millisecond of activity, and yet we see photographs that are hundreds of years old that we look back on, and it's, reminding us of a time gone by. And I think it's just, I guess, important to remember kind of why we're all here and why we're looking at this artwork. So with that, this is the first image entitled Privy. It's a leaning outhouse that's actually on my road in Newark Valley where I live. And I've driven past this building, thousands of times on my way home. And one day I just decided that I would go out and try to capture it in the wintertime. This was last winter, about a year ago now. Unfortunately, this building is gone now. I think the farmer's family that owns this property has taken this structure away. So it's gone forever. So I was very thankful to have gotten this image when I did. I'm not sure whether it finally fell over or they just removed it, but it's no longer there. This image I entitled Portico. It's an abandoned mental hospital in Saratoga County near Albany. And I've been inside this structure, which is, as you can see, very abandoned. It's quite an interesting place, to say the least, and we'll be looking at some other images as we move on here. But this is basically the front main entrance of the building. Onward and upward, this is actually the main stair inside that facility. So you can kind of tell here the state of the interior deterioration. Basically all the old plaster that's fallen has filled in all the stair treads and risers there. They're still pretty sound, but it's in pretty bad shape. Unfortunately, the roof has had some major leaks, and once you start getting water in the building, then it's pretty much all downhill from there. But I just thought the way the light was kind of coming through some of the outside windows and illuminating the staircase, that was kind of an interesting image with the wrought iron and such there. This is a toilet room. I don't know why, for some reason I'm kind of drawn to taking pictures of toilet rooms. I'm not sure what that's all about, but they're interesting places most of the time. And this is from a mansion that we're actually doing some architectural work on down in the Catskill region of New York. And obviously captured in black and white, but this is all pink and green tile, typical of the 30s and 40s construction period. I really like this image. This is entitled Milk House. It's a small little farm building about a half a mile from my house. Again, another building that I drive by every day, and I kept saying I need to get out and capture this thing. And I just did it not that long ago on one kind of foggy morning, and just really liked the feel of this and kind of the leading lines of the road and the snow on the shoulder of the road and those kind of things, and the tree kind of framing the image on the left-hand side. So it's one of my personal favorites. An old kitchen back to the Saratoga facility again. I'm not really into the whole graffiti thing, but I see a little graffiti in the background there, which kind of maybe adds a little depth to the image, and a lot of, deterioration going on there. This is an image from a friend of mine's former house. This was her part of her bedroom, and I just really enjoyed the lighting that was all natural from some very dirty windows that allowed, filtered light to come into the space. And all this is now abandoned. It's just amazing that it kind of stayed in the condition that it did. This was an interesting shot. I was able to get into one of the former Endicott Johnson shoe company warehouses in Johnson City before the building was repurposed actually into some low-income housing. And this is the machine room to one of the freight elevators that was there with this chair or stool there. And I just really, this is a very dirty, kind of greasy, grimy kind of space with all the elevator lift equipment and all the pigeon droppings in the bottom right. So I just, again, enjoyed kind of the lighting from the left and just the kind of the history that this image carries with it. This is a shot actually in my backyard. I have several acres in Newark Valley, and there's several old vehicles that have been parked there since probably the maybe early 60s by the farmer that used to own the property. And my daughter Madeline and I have gone out to shoot some of these cars every once in a while. And this is a 1952 Ford that just kind of sits there between the trees. The Cameo Theater on Robinson Street in Binghamton, on Binghamton's east side, another abandoned structure. And I guess I should say that the theme of all these images is really abandonment and things that just are in a totally different state than they at least once were. From what I understand, and talking with some people on the opening night of this show, who had actually been to this theater, that I guess in its heyday was quite the place on the side of Binghamton. So it's a shame that it just sits there getting further and further in disrepair. This is in the basement level of that Saratoga County facility, I think down where they used to have the laundry facilities for the building. And here was this old laundry cart. And I just thought, again, with the lighting and the decay, that this made an interesting image, thinking about what had taken place there over the years. Toilet stall at the former Endicott Johnson facility. I just was really drawn to all this crazy peeling paint. The building had been, abandoned for, maybe 20 or 30 years. And I just thought that this was kind of an interesting image with the texture of everything going on. As I mentioned before, we're doing some work on a Jaeger mansion that's down in Liberty, New York. And my business partner, Jeff, and I were there. And you can see him kind of in the doorway there, his shadow, which he was accidentally kind of walking through my shot as I was capturing the shot. And he kind of looks a little ghostly like with his flashlight, but I entitled this Jeff appropriately. Everybody probably recognizes this building as the Binghamton train station over by the baseball stadium, Lackawanna Station. Again, a building that's kind of gone through a bunch of transformations over the years, but I really enjoy the perspective views of this and just kind of its The cloud formations, I think, add a lot to it. And it's just not the same in color as it is in black and white. So I kind of kept that black and white. This is also in that same Jaeger mansion. It was quite a palatial mansion at one time. I think there was 4 families that used to live there back in its heyday, and this couch was just shoved into the corner along with this toaster on the floor, and I just thought that that was just I don't know, kind of crazy from a, I guess, contents point of view, and again the natural light from the windows. An old manufacturing building in Little Falls. I just enjoy the, I don't know, the abandoned factory look and feel, thinking about the manufacturing that once took place in this building and in the town of Little Falls, which is a cool little town north of Utica. And unfortunately, this building's in pretty bad shape, but I just thought that that was kind of interesting. Back to the Jaeger mansion, they actually had an indoor pool, which you can see kind of in the bottom of this picture, and the reflection from the light in that water. It was all tiled. The floors are all caving in, but in its heyday, it was quite the place. This is that Endicott Johnson building. They had the sunrise and the sunset building. One was kind of east and one was west. And again, the people that live in the Triple Cities locally understand all the history that EJ has in our community. And I wish I would have been in the photography business prior to a bunch of the old EJ buildings being torn down, because there's a lot of history there. Just a storefront of a little store. I can't even remember. I think this was somewhere in the Catskills alongside of the road, but just really like the texture and the architectural composition of this shot. Another roadside find of an old truck in this kind of rusty tin plate covered barn. It's pretty well preserved. Just like kind of the, I guess, opposing views here. Back to the Jaeger mansion again. This was, I think, one of their many living rooms in the property. The round top window, and then kind of a barrel vaulted ceiling, which was quite interesting and still remarkably kind of intact. And we all see these kind of places along the roadside, but I just had to stop and kind of capture this. It just, I don't know, there's a lot of stuff going on with this house, and I, think about the people that used to live there, and different functions that took place there, what they did for a living, what they ate at their table. I mean, just a lot of, history that these kind of places, I guess, invoke. And lastly, just to close with this, I found this quote a little while ago, which I really kind of resonated with me, and you can read it here, but it's by an artist named Gabby Abro. Excuse me, and it says, when you feel deeply understood and moved by a piece of music, literature, or art, you are not connecting with its creator, you're connecting with yourself. And I think that was very well said on her part, and that's really how I feel about my work. It means something to me, but when others look at it and it means something to them, then it somehow makes it all worthwhile. So Christina, we also can send our listeners or viewers to my website. It's just simply www.chianisphotography.com. You'll be able to see lots of other images that I've captured over the years. So with that, I guess I'll turn it back over to you, Christina.
Sure. So thank you for that great presentation, Greg. It's been a really wonderful exhibition, and there's been a lot of people coming in here and seeing these images, some of which are, they reminisce about their family members or themselves being in these buildings not very long ago, and just having these great memories. So, we have a few minutes here, so I figured if you don't mind, I wanted to ask some questions that I have and some that have come up from visitors who have been in your current exhibition, New York Abandoned. So if you don't mind. So first,
Sure. No.
thank you. So the first thing, common question is, what drew you to photography?
Well, that's kind of uh, I guess, not a sensitive answer, but a realistic one. But in 2007, I was diagnosed with lymphoma cancer. It was basically, it spread throughout my body, my lymph system and stomach and intestines. And it was a pretty big surprise for me and a life-changing one, to say the least, in many ways. I look at it as a very positive experience. I went through 3 years of chemotherapy and maintenance treatments. And I guess to answer your question, that a weird thing happened, and I'm not one of these kind of superstitious people, but it was weird. I just kind of had this feeling that came over me that said, you have to go out and try to make a difference and do something with a camera. And to that point, I had never really, didn't even really have a camera. I was kind of the beginning of the digital age, not too far beyond that. And I would always take pictures of my daughter, or on vacation here and there as snapshots, but I never seriously focused on photography as an art form. So when I was put into remission and basically given a clean bill of health, I bought a camera, and this is a true story. I bought a camera. I read the instructions in the owner's manual on the flight to Rome, and I went to Italy for 3 weeks by myself, and literally sun up to sundown, and I mean that honestly, like literally sun up to sundown. I did nothing but take pictures. I took a lot of bad ones. I learned how to use the camera. I experimented with it. I just immersed myself in photography 24/7 for, it was like a 3 week period of time. And when I came back from that, I had a handful of images that I was pretty happy with or proud of. And uh, one of the artists in Binghamton, Roz Salati, who has his gallery on State Street, he had asked me if I wanted to have a solo show. And I thought at first he was kidding me. But then after that, I realized he was serious, and I had my first show, and I've had many, many since then, and I've won a number of different awards, both locally and nationally with some things, and it's just really changed my life on how I look at things, how I view the world. I'll be driving on the highway to a meeting somewhere, and I'm looking at clouds or trees, off in the distance, wishing that I had my camera. So it's really been a very I don't know, interesting journey, to say the least. And I'm far from being finished with it. I consider myself very much a novice at all this, and really there's a lot to learn. So anyways, long story for what should have been a short answer.
No, thank you for that. And, your current show is titled New York Abandoned. And if you see your larger body of work, there's common themes of abandonment, loss, and decay. And, why is that? Or what draws you to these abandoned places and objects?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've been asked that many times before. And every time anybody asks me that, I feel like I should know the answer to it, but I'm really, I think, still searching for that answer. I think it could be, and hypothesize on several possibilities. It could be the whole, personal loneliness or, loss in my life of loved ones. It could be my love of architecture and wanting to kind of preserve it. It could be wanting to tell people, a story about what was there and what happened at these places. Especially, when I went into this one, it was an asylum in Italy, in a very remote part of Italy. And to think of the things that, at one time took place there, back at the turn of the century, it's pretty frightening and scary. And I don't know, I guess I can't answer that question. I think you're right, that I do have this kind of common theme about it. But I guess if I had to put my finger on any one thing, I think it's just really trying to convey a feeling and a story, and let people, make out of it what they want. I can recall back several years ago, I had an image that I had taken at the Dachau concentration camp in Germany, and it's on my website. It's basically it's an image of one of the bunk beds, a wooden bunk bed that they had at the concentration camp. And I was in this gallery, and I had this image being displayed there. And it was, I think, the opening night of the show. And the gallery owner called me over and said, "Greg, this woman over here wants to talk to you about this image." And she was just standing in front of this picture. And then I realized that she was crying in front of this image. And it had actually won an award for, I don't know, whatever competition I had entered it in. And didn't know her background, but come to find out, I guess her mother had just passed away and was a survivor of the Dachau, concentration camp. And, then it all made sense to me. But to think that I went to this place at one time and visited and took a handful of pictures, brought it back to Binghamton, and, framed and matted this thing and hung it on a wall in a gallery. And now there's this woman crying over it. It's a pretty meaningful thing. And I really felt that I kind of did my duty or my job, not to make her cry, but to really, I guess, remind all of us of things like that, tragedy in life, but that maybe in some way, that helped her heal a little bit. So yeah, that's the whole story with the abandoned thing, I think.
Thank you. And I'll just ask one more question for now.
Sure.
But so I guess, what do you hope visitors take away from your exhibition, particularly in the time of COVID-19? Just quick thoughts.
It's really, as we all know, this thing has affected all of our lives in every possible facet, and certainly in the art world it has. I think, there's a lot to be said about my images and being alone, and kind of, relating to what people are dealing with these days on their own, whether they live alone or their families, are far apart and not able to see each other or socialize. And I guess my hope with any of my images is just to really have people take away what they visualize, or what they can picture in their own mind, or what it means to them. What it means to me is one thing, but I put these things on the wall for other people to look at. It's not me. I want to be able to share my work with others. So I'm hoping that they will see hope and positivity in some of these images, that, these places used to be, very lavish or nice places to work, or, cars to drive, or whatever the situation is. And hopefully we can, get to that point at some future date. So I don't know. What other questions would you have, Christina?
Well, for now, if we could leave it there, because you answered some of my other questions, but yes, thank you so much for your time to share with us about your work and your experience and as a photographer and how you came to be one. So um, I really appreciate that, Greg, and thank you so much for your show. I hope that people are able to come down and see it Tuesday through Saturday, 11 to 4 p.m. We'll be open late on Thursdays. And yeah, please thank you, Greg, for being part of this and for putting on a great show.
Thank you for the opportunity. You got to have a great space there. I'm glad to be a proud Tioga County resident displaying my work in the hometown. So that's cool.
Oh, thank you, Greg.
All right. Thank you very much.